So in this video, I wanted to take time to recap everything we've been doing with parallel and perpendicular lines. So every single time you go and try to identify the given slope from an equation, make sure you put it in slope-intercept form. When I say slope-intercept form, I mean y equals mx plus b, where m is our slope and where b is our y-intercept. So when we talk about parallel lines, we are meaning the lines that have the same slope. These lines that have the same slope will never touch on the graph. Perpendicular lines have opposite reciprocal slopes. So the opposite part is going to tell us, I'm going to try to color code it so we can keep up with it. The opposite word is going to tell us to change the sign. Then the reciprocal side, or reciprocal word, is going to tell us to flip the denominator and the numerator. So when you multiply the slopes of perpendicular lines, you will always get -1. So an example, if you were given +3, you would create a fraction out of that whole number, so 3/1. So the perpendicular slope of 3 would be -1/3. So when you take, and I'm going to zoom in for us. So if you take 3/1 times -1/3, when we're multiplying fractions, you would do 3 times -1, so you get -3. Then you would have 1 times 3, so you would get +3. And then you have -3 divided by 3, which gives you -1. Remember, if you're checking this rule, that if a negative is divided by a positive, you always end up with a negative. So perpendicular lines intersect once, or one time, at a 90-degree angle. So now we're going to practice a little bit of it. So what I showed y'all to do, or told y'all to do, is if you're given a whole number, go ahead and change it to a fraction. So we're given -2, and we want to create a fraction out of it. And I'm not sure if it's on your paper or not, but it kind of looks like it's already given. But I'm going to redo it so that you can see it. So we're going to put a 1 underneath the -2. So the given slope is -2, so the parallel slope is the exact same thing. And that's the negative sign. So the perpendicular slope is going to change the sign. So now it's positive, and we're flipping the fraction that we did under given the slope. So it's going to be 1/2, or just 1/2. Now for the next one, we are given already a fraction, so we're going to leave it as is. We've got 1/3 as our parallel, because our parallel is going to be the exact same thing as given. We started with a positive, so we're changing it to negative, and we're flipping it to 3 over 1. Now, I'm not going to take off for negative 3 over 1, but after this assessment, I'm going to expect you to go ahead and simplify your answer to negative 3. So when we're given the slope 1, we can go ahead and put 1 over 1. The parallel slope is going to be the exact same thing. And then we've got to change the sign. So I'm trying to keep up with colors here. So it started with positive for our given slope, so now our perpendicular has to be negative. And then we're going to flip it, which it's still 1 over 1, but now it's negative. So again, you're going to simplify. Negative 1 divided by 1 is negative 1, and that would be your perpendicular slope. Now 0 and undefined are the tricky ones. So when we have a slope of 0, given a slope of 0, our 0 is understood above a 1 still. So 0 divided by 1 is 0. Make sure you do not do 0 divided by 0. So our parallel slope is going to be the exact same thing. Now, if we flip our given slope, so it's negative 1 over 0, can we divide by 0 at any point? No. So we cannot do this. So that means our perpendicular slope would be undefined. Now for when we're given the slope of undefined. It does not matter what the actual slope is. This undefined word is meaning that there is a 0 in the denominator. And I think I gave you a triangle. It does not matter what is on top of the 0. The parallel slope is going to be the exact same thing as undefined, or the given slope. And now, going back to that triangle that I drew. So if we flipped it, we would have 0 over triangle. And again, I'm just putting a triangle so you realize how it does not matter what it is. So 0 divided by any number is going to give you 0. So again, when we're given 0, our parallel slope is 0, and then it flips to undefined. When we're given undefined, given undefined is the same thing as the parallel of undefined. Once we flip undefined, we have 0 on top, so our slope of our perpendicular is 0. Now we need to come in and figure out if these are parallel, perpendicular, or neither. So first, gotta deal with what is the slope. So the slope of the first one is going to be where our m is of our slope-intercept form. So our slope, I'm going to just put s, slope is 2. For the second one, we've got 2 as well, so s is 2. Before you answer parallel, also make sure it's not going to be neither. Because if it is the exact same line, it is not parallel, it's neither. So our 5s, our negative 5 and our 3 tells us that it's going to have different y-intercepts, so they're going to be different lines. So this one is going to be indeed parallel. Now for the next one, we're going to identify our slopes. So this one is already in slope-intercept form, so my slope is 1 over 2. My second one is already in slope-intercept form, so we have -2. Are these the same? No, so it's not parallel. We're going from +1/2 to -2. And I'm going to change that whole number into a fraction so I can see how it's changing from the first one to the second one and see if it's perpendicular. Well, it is going from a positive to the negative, so it is doing the opposite. Now is it taking the reciprocal of the first slope? It's flipping the 1/2 to 2/1. So yes, it is perpendicular. Now for the last one. For the last one, we want to make sure it's in slope-intercept form before we do anything. So again, y equals mx plus b. So the 3x is positive, so we've got to subtract it. 3x minus 3x cancels out because it becomes 0. So you end up with y equals -3x plus 8. Is y by itself like our slope-intercept form? Yes. So now we can identify that our slope is -3. For the second equation, y is not by itself, so we've got to get it by itself. The -6x is negative, so we can add 6x, add 6x. This cancels out, and we're left with 2y equals. We cannot combine the 16 and the 6 because they're not like terms, because the 16 doesn't have an x. And we're left with 6x plus 16. There's multiplication in between the 2 and the y, so we're going to do the inverse operation. And what we would do on one side, we have to do to the whole other side. So we're left with y equals 6 divided by 2 is 3x, and then we've got 16 divided by 2, which is 8. So we're comparing this 3, which is the slope, to our -3. So we have -3, and I'm going to put it in fraction form just in case we have perpendicular, to +3. Well, we are taking the opposite. We are going from negative to positive, but we are not flipping our fraction. So it's going to be neither.